Well, good morning. We're going to skip the music this morning because it doesn't seem to be coming. Oh, you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, I don't
Yes.
know. I pushed
Yeah.
the music button and it didn't play. So we'll skip the feeling groovy this morning, huh? Well, welcome everybody. This is our 76th podcast. Can you believe it? We kind of started all this I guess last summer, but we're learning as we're going. And we have a wonderful guest today, Kwanna Wise, and I'll tell you a little bit about what I know about her in a minute. And then Sandy, I know you've got a quote for us.
I do. By Confucius. We're going to go right to the head of wisdom, right? It does not matter how slowly you go as long as you do not.
That's a good one. That's a good one. As year by year, I seem to go slower, more
Right.
slowly, or whatever. Anyway, thanks, Sandy. So, Kwanna, welcome.
Thank
Kwanna and
you.
I have a past together. We know each other, and I found her on LinkedIn. And she and I both worked at Bates, and we worked in the construction apprentice program, and she might tell us a little bit about that. But she doesn't live in Tacoma anymore, and I'm glad I didn't
Right.
have to drive to Boston to find her.
Good thing. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm curious about that story, how you got from.
Or Boston to Tacoma, one or the
Oh,
other.
yeah. That is probably going to require a whole other podcast.
A transition journey. We've got about that sometimes. So, Quanah, you say you remember me teaching, and I remember you as a coordinator. So, I know you were kind of learning. You tell the story at Bates, and Bates is a great learning place because
Yeah.
you get all sorts of learners that are shut down. They don't think that they're smart, and
Hmm.
it's a great place to help people bloom. But
Yeah.
tell us a little bit about your story.
Yeah. So, a little bit of background. Was, I will back up a little bit. So, I ended up in Tacoma because I'm born and raised in Boston, and I was a mental health case manager for some time, about 6 years. And then when I got married, I decided to moved to Scotland, and we were living in Edinburgh, Scotland for about a year. And
Oh,
yeah,
wow. How
and
fun.
my partner at the time was going to school in Edinburgh. And when he completed his year-long program, we were like, well, that was such a fun adventure. We don't want to go back to Boston. And so we decided on Tacoma, Washington, because he had some family that lived out there. And so once we moved there, I found the pilot program with the city of Tacoma for the pre-apprenticeship construction trades program. And I was like, I would love to do construction. Like, I love working with my hands. My dad is a contractor. And so I've always been exposed to building and, you know, anything art related or building related or working with my hands. So I pursued that program, started going through the program, even though, I have this whole full bachelor's degree in psychology and work experience and all this. I just was like, I'm going to put all in and do this program. And as Sue mentioned, like I went through the program. She was my teacher. A lot of the core of what she was teaching were concepts that I was very familiar with and comfortable with. But I think that Sue had a way with students to make the content relatable and like personal. And I think Sue just has that
Right.
like personal touch, and she's just so
Yeah,
full of like joy
she
work.
she
Yes,
does.
so much joy. And so she
She
made it
does.
really like exciting to go to class every day and talk about, writing a resume or a cover letter that's personal to you and that speaks to your strengths and your experiences. So I really enjoyed that experience. And then once I completed the program, I got offered from the, the leadership of the program to apply to the program. And I think they probably recognized, that I had a lot of ideas on how to make the program better, because I would actually vocalize that, like, well, we should be doing this, or I think it would be great if this program had, this aspect that would really help to evolve the program and support the students, because the student population that was involved with the program. Some of some of those people are like just involved, or some of the people, have never really held down a really great, solid career, or just people from my community, people who I relate to, um, people who just need a little bit extra support in order to pursue a career.
Mhm.
And so overcoming barriers is a huge aspect of that. And so, I just kind of embedded my ideas on how to support those students. And they recognized that I could probably really support the success of the program. And so I was hired there as a coordinator. Um, and I worked there probably for like 2 years, and I saw several cohorts go through. I didn't even count. I probably saw 7 or 8 cohorts of students go through the program. Um, and it was very rewarding. Very,
Good.
very rewarding. Yeah. Um, so yeah, that it's just like taking me back in time.
Yeah, well, they definitely, the leadership definitely noticed that you were you were courageous, number one, to say it. A lot of people won't talk about their ideas, and you were confident enough to express yourself. Actually, when you
Right.
think about it, as a learning environment, your psychology degree couldn't have been more perfect because you understood people, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I want to throw something into Kwanna, is that you said you got to watch your dad and you got to participate in some of, being able to use your hands and your tools and that kind of thing. I think I'm an early childhood educator, and I think when children have that opportunity, it cements the ability to do critical thinking, to work with your hands, and I think there's some special learning that happens in that venue
Mhm.
of hands-on learning, we call it. But
Mhm.
I think that probably gave you skills that somebody who hadn't had that opportunity maybe wouldn't have had.
Mm.
Yeah, and the new psychological studies nowadays are in neuroscience, and they're really finding that our hands, are connected to our butt. Well, I mean, our butt, excuse me, our gut, and we
Mhm.
have a brain in our gut, and so
Mm.
it's all connected, and then it connects up here too, and then we have neural pathways that are, that connect everything.
Mhm.
And Sandy, you're right that hands-on learning is important for everybody. And if you're a kinesthetic learner,
Right.
and I
Mhm.
don't know if you are, Kwanna,
Right.
but I
I
know
am.
I am more than I
Yeah.
ever thought I was. And you don't. Well, the thing I used to tell especially my diesel mechanics, is that once you learn something and do it as you're learning it, you don't have to look at the textbook or the manual, because you know it from the inside out,
Yep.
and that's really important learning. But in K through 12, you don't get rewarded for that at all. You get told to shut up and sit down,
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
at least you used to. I know it's getting a little bit better, but it's tough. The other thing I want to bring out about you said this word, and you said the word art, that you like the art, and so I'm curious as to the
Mhm.
creative piece of you. And one thing I learned at Bates was that my welders were my artists.
Mhm.
They totally, I'd give them a piece of white paper, the big the boards, and they would be drawing, and they'd have the best penmanship, and
Mm.
they never considered themselves artists. And the ones that did just bloomed, you know. So it was fascinating.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I think of construction as art because you are creating with your hands.
Right, right.
And I myself I consider myself an artist because I paint acrylic on canvas.
Nice.
And I've also, like, just been drawn to different types of, like, crafts and beadwork and just
Yeah.
things like anything with your hands, and so, yeah, I think that there is definitely some connection
Mhm.
to having a creative or, like, just problem solving when you're, like, building because it does require you to
Oh,
use both sides of your
It's all
brain, I
right,
think.
that's right. Yeah, you need the
right.
corners and you need the,
It's a
yeah, absolutely. You know, my dad was a carpenter, but before that, he was kind of from his family forced into going into accounting. You know,
Mm,
his folks were from Sweden, and they thought that he needed to do something academic, and he didn't like it. He only went to school for a year and then became an accountant. But he used to call when you worked with your hands doing something real.
mhm, mhm.
And what I like about that in early childhood, I remember reading, I can't remember the books I read about it, but I remember one guy talking about when kids are like 4 and 5, get out a piece of wood and get some roofing nails and make them pound nails,
yeah,
because that solidifies doing something real, and it gives them
nice.
confidence. It gives that the self-confidence we don't know how to give kids. If we give them tasks to do something real, then
Yeah.
they really perform well, you know.
That's incredible because I have a daughter and she's 5 now, and I also have a baby on the way, and so it's just, like, very thank you. It's just
Congratulations.
really exciting because I see all the time how, like, tactile she loves to be and, anything just, like,
Right,
pouring water and from one cup to another it
Oh
just
yeah,
means the world to her, and so
right.
I
yeah.
can see how now I'm gonna go to Home Depot and get some nails and some wood so she can stay busy,
Yeah.
see how that fares because I think she can do it.
Oh yeah.
Those are pre-math skills,
Yes.
Kwanna. All those things are pre-math, and when children get to be able to jump in and have their senses all working together. Yeah, and that's one of the concerns I probably have about education right
Mhm.
now is I think some of this is going away, and I'm thinking this is not the right way. I mean, we put the kids in front of a
Yeah.
screen, and that is not the best way to learn. It's not a holistic approach to being able to have
Right.
everything brought together in your learning
Yes,
Yeah, we've got
process.
a
absolutely.
touch and feel, and baking is great. I mean, anything that has a real product is so valuable, in
Mhm.
the learning, because then it connect, like you said, connect both sides of the brain.
Mhm.
So I'm glad to hear you're an artist, because that makes you a wonderful learner. You never turn off. I read an article this weekend about, I think this gal was like in her 90s, and she kind of looked back about, and from when she retired from, she was an actress, and she thought, well, every year she seemed to have something new she wanted to learn. So she still had a list when she died.
Wow.
This year I want to
Yeah,
learn to paint,
right.
this year I'm going to learn to garden, and you keep
I
that going.
love it.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Yeah.
My my son-in-law's granny, she goes by Granny, and she and I share the same birthday. We were both born on August 21st, but I'm not 100 years old, but she turned 100 this year. And that gal, she is amazing. And she started quilting when she was 8 years old. And she is still quilting. And she actually did a book with her daughter's help. And they just finished it up, I think, this last year of all the different kinds of quilts and all the different names of the quilts, because each pattern has its own name, and it is so amazing. And the history that she brought in with her art is, it's
Mhm.
unfathomable. It's just
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah, and I don't know. I have to ask that guy I was telling you about, Nathan, the professor and doctor of learning. He's a nice
Mhm.
guy. But I have to ask him because I believe that I teach to learn. I do
Mhm.
better as a teacher. Not that I don't know anything, but I go in with the mind of learning,
Mm.
and I
Mhm.
learn with the students so that my gate of learning is open. Otherwise, if I come in that I know it all, then I'm no good to anybody. That humility piece is really important. So,
Mhm.
okay, well, wow, you're not really a new mom, but you've got a daughter and another child on the way. That's great
Mhm.
transition stuff. And
And they will teach you more than anything you can read in a book,
Yeah.
Kwanna. Oh my gosh. Talk about drinking out of a fire hydrant. Oh, and before I took child development, my babies would do stuff, and I think, why are they doing it? Dropping stuff off the tray, thinking, well, it was space relational, and they wanted to see what happened when they were exploring, and I didn't realize
Yeah.
what it
Yeah.
was. And
The
yeah,
curiosity is always amazing.
and
absolutely.
they're absolutely as different as you could ever imagine.
Mm.
This
I
is
can't wait.
like,
You'll think,
no,
when this new baby comes, you're going to say, I thought they came from the same gene pool, and
I'll
they're
tell you,
totally
personality
different.
wise, you learn so much and you learn about conflict and all that kind of stuff. So,
Yeah, I'm more patient than ever before now.
oh well, good luck. It's just beginning.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, absolutely.
Oh, that's great.
Well, very good for you. It sounds like you're a
Thank
great
you.
mama.
Appreciate that.
So tell us more about your passions in learning a minute. How are you blending the two together, the mental health psychology and the passion for learning and leadership? Because I'm hunching you're still on that leadership path. Is that
Mhm.
kind of who you are?
Yeah, I know. It's like leadership chose me. I've never chosen to be a
Uh-huh.
leader.
Yeah, that's true.
Um,
But there was something in your soul that made you step up to the
yeah,
plate,
it's
though,
it's
Kawana.
it's the oldest daughter syndrome, I think. But yeah, so now I am leading community engagement for the Mayor's Office of Environment, Energy, and Open Space for the city of Boston. And I'm supporting
Wow.
multiple departments within that cabinet. So that's the Environment Department, the Office of Historic Preservation, the Parks and Recreation Department, the Office of Climate Resilience, and the Environment Department. Did I say I didn't say environment. Okay, that's all of them.
You have
Wow.
a huge, huge
Yeah.
job, Kawana.
Yeah,
Oh
and
my
so
goodness.
it doesn't require that I'm doing engagement for each of those teams, but just like supporting their work, making sure that the teams feel supported with the engagement work that they are doing. And the wonderful part about my job is that um, everyone within those departments does like really good, thoughtful engagement, so that the work of the city is reaching, multiple constituents and residents, and we're sharing the work and we're sharing new programs and we're sharing, grant opportunities and things like that. So it's been really cool to incorporate my art or my creative side because I'm constantly seeking new opportunities to get creative with our work, you know?
Yeah, and so I'm hearing that you're probably doing some supervision and you're doing some well in that kind of a job with that many categories. Sandy, loves dogs, or is that your dog, Sandy?
Sorry, I'm not.
I've got four-legged doorbells out here.
So coordinating project management and art. And it sounds like you've got a good staff underneath you, but you're doing coaching.
Mhm.
And your role is very entrepreneurial. So again,
Mhm. Absolutely.
that's your speaking up. It's not just doing the work, but you're moving it forward and you're growing people.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah.
I I hear a lot of different skills, and I love it. Well, I'm impressed.
Thank you. I appreciate
Well, I
that.
bet you have to do a lot of thinking. I bet you have to do a lot of thinking on your feet,
Yeah,
Kwanna. And I think that that's one of the things that we've been talking about. Improvisation, Sue, is what you talk about is in the
Leadership
moment.
improv, I call it.
You
Yeah.
know, knowing what to say,
yeah,
Well,
what
I
to do.
go
it's
ahead.
been really fun to because I have one just one one person that I supervise, but I'm constantly learning from her and I'm constantly like just like advocating and pushing her to take leadership. And
Yeah.
so I feel
Right.
like a learner too. And it's cool that you said that, Sue, because I don't feel like I'm a supervisor, I'm a leader. Like I feel like I'm also learning.
Sure.
And I appreciate our relationship in that way because she feels empowered
Mhm.
because I trust her and I'm like looking to her to also give me guidance because there's some gaps in things that I know that
Mhm.
she knows very well. And so I like love that part of
You're a
the
team.
work.
Do you do any larger team work or team development, or is it just you and her meeting?
Yeah, so it's generally just she and I meeting because um the different departments most of them don't have like a specific engagement person that's focused on engagement, but each department does some aspect of engagement. So my supervision is just for her.
Mhm.
Um, but also we've been kind of like playing with the idea of expanding um, our teaching or like not necessarily teaching, but more so like communicating
Sure.
how we're doing the work and then like sharing best practices. So I think that's like next on the list of things that I would like to pursue. Um, again, because like the role that I'm in, I'm the first person to take this position. So it's like I'm learning as I go and I'm kind of like creating the position.
Yeah, you're developing it as you go because you don't know what the issue is until you get
Well,
there
and
sometimes as a
leadership,
leader. So yeah.
yeah, leadership's all about influence.
Mm,
So that's what you're doing, and then it kind of blossoms and it grows.
mhm.
Um, and
Well, and I love, Kwanna, that you are helping with sustainability to what you're doing because you have someone that you are mentoring. And a lot of times I think we drop the ball on that as leaders in the fact that to keep going forward, the principles and policies and all the thing that goes with that particular position, right?
Yeah.
well, and when you talk about influence and leadership, your department, you want all your people to go out and be teachers to the community,
Hmm.
a broader influence.
Right.
And
Right.
that,
Spread the wealth.
yeah, and that's a lot about being humble and listening, not just telling. And, you know,
Hmm.
all the principles that you know about learning and mental health need to go out to the whole community too. And not everybody can do that. I interviewed a niece of mine who's a project manager for a large drug company,
Hmm.
and she's very creative and she's musical. I don't know, are you musical?
No, I cannot
No.
say that I am.
But she talked a lot about kind of music improv and how she learns, and she
Mm,
said she takes up different instruments to learn, and right now she's trying to learn the accordion.
mm,
She's taking lessons, and she said that what did she say, my accordion is my focus, because when
mhm.
she's learning something new, has to read the music, and she goes, when she has to learn something new, her focus is different, and she likes to go, from action into learning focus, that bouncing back and forth.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I thought that was interesting. But she also, she's a project manager and high in entrepreneurial skills. That's just
Mm,
part of it. So you can be an entrepreneur within an organization.
yes.
Right.
You can think forward too as to how you want to be an entrepreneur a little later when you're going into consulting, but it's all about influencing people and
Yeah.
increasing your scope.
Mm.
Well, it's kind of fun that you get to be at the ground level too, at the roots, the grassroots of the situation, because you get to you see what needs to be done. You have more. Hopefully, you have more permission to go forward and make your goals happen because you are starting out. There's not like something that has been done ahead. We've always done it this way. You get to go forward and have it be what you know it needs to
Right.
be.
And I'm thinking now too that as being a mom of young children, that's in your scope right now. But and you can go all the way
Yeah.
to people like us, retired people that, because it needs to go the whole spectrum, and it's very important in the community to have
Hmm.
both
Hmm.
sides and the
It's funny that you say that because honestly, the communities that I enjoy engaging with the most are the youth and elders because both are very honest, both are very sincere and like just like full of information.
Mhm.
There's so much that I've learned
Right.
just talking to students in
Mhm.
like middle school or high school, and just getting their feedback for certain initiatives is super rewarding and helpful for us. And so, yeah, I totally agree with you.
Yeah, and you're not um, when you catch them when they're young, their learning hasn't been turned off yet.
Hmm. Hmm.
We had a bigger challenge at Bates because a lot of them had given up on themselves, and we had to massage them out of that.
Hmm.
But when they're younger, you'll have little spark plugs that'll spark up, and you'll have that in your senior community too. There's seniors that like to just sit down and not get up, but there's lots of seniors that need to find some mental health through
Absolutely.
forcing their brain to go to joy.
Well, we become full circle. We start out as infants, and then as we age, we go back to our childhood roots, right?
And the little kids like joy too. So it's really important.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
just this past, I have 3 or 4 people that I engage with regularly just through text, and 2 or 3 of them really struggle with depression, and they've got some illnesses that are not fun. But unless you make it a habit to focus, my accordion is my focus. I need to
Yeah.
focus on my joy and how am
Yeah.
I going to have joy and be thankful that day. You won't. You go back into the deep groove of your brain that says, oh, it's raining. It's going to be a terrible day. And positive affirmations help, but it's not the same as really believing it and then making it
Yeah.
real.
And I think that to your point, when it comes to like acting and then feeling like you've accomplished something, that like that action and then reaction, that whole cycle is a little bit addicting because you become addicted to like the feeling of success,
Yeah.
right? So that's why I think it's really important to like try things and not say no to opportunities, even if they feel a little bit intimidating. Like just so I I think that I realized that as a when I was working at Bates and seeing how some people were really like not very confident or not feeling very successful, just seeing how accomplishing building a little birdhouse or like something really small, and people are like developing that self-confidence that they feel, wow, I can't believe I did that. And then that feeling of accomplishment becomes addictive
Yeah,
and it builds
absolutely.
upon itself naturally.
Confident.
Right. It's a motivator for continuing to learn and to take risks
Absolutely.
as you go forward. You're
And
totally
the
right, Kwanna.
confidence
You're
that's
right.
built pushes people not only into leadership, our leadership catches you. I used to call it a germ.
Yeah. So true.
Yeah, but it not only catches you, but a lot of those people at Bates were tended very much toward entrepreneurship. They
Yes.
they could be independent. They thought for themselves. They were really good at saying, "To heck with what." They were used to saying, "To heck what someone else thinks. I know what I know what I,
Yeah.
who I am and what I do. So, there, but boy, it takes some real insight to see it and then name it. And once you name it and you start exploring it with them, I mean, you're doing a lot of coaching.
Hmm. Hmm.
Yeah.
So I'm proud of you. That's great. Um,
Thank you.
I have a question for you, Kwanna. In your life, or even in your job that you're doing right now, what has been the biggest challenge and how did you overcome it? What did you do to problem solve it?
Yeah, I think that and I think I'm just realizing this too lately, but I think with my role right now, I've realized that when I'm not like fully, knowledgeable about a topic, or, I don't feel like I have 100% um, the equipment to know exactly what to do. Like I was able to do working at Bates. I felt like fully equipped and not too much of a learning curve. But right now, with this job, I've been here for 2 years. And I think that I had the like raw tools that I needed to do the job, but not
Right.
necessarily like full knowledge of like environmental issues or like climate issues or like decarbonizing or like, building out the electrical grid infrastructure. Those are things that I've started to learn. And I think that with that learning curve, I realize how important it is to just put myself out there,
Mhm.
ask questions, admit that, there's things that I don't know, being humble. So like all of this, like the kind of the themes of this conversation have been really like the breath of what I'm living every day. And like I had had been going through a point maybe almost a year ago where I was just like having this like imposter syndrome, like, oh my God, what if I can't do this job? Like what if I'm
Yeah.
not the right person for this job, even though I
Right.
enjoy it and I'm very interested in it? Like what if it's not for me? And so I, had to confide in, um, people who really know me, and they're like, no, you have the skills that it takes. Just have the confidence and keep trying and keep doing what you're doing. And you have great ideas and good vision that will come and will be executed when the time is right. And so someone told me this really good quote, and I don't want to butcher it, but I think it was something along the lines of you got the job because you're the right person for the job or something like that. So that kind of stuck with me. And I think that it's only now in the past 6 months where I'm starting to like feel more equipped because I stuck it out, and I'm continuing to try, and I'm putting myself in very like uncomfortable situations, but I'm also like leaning on people like,
Mhm.
my colleague who does engagement to learn from her as well. So those types of things
sure.
have really pushed me to grow in a way that I probably wouldn't have if I had just given up.
Yeah. Well, you're literally taking your experience boxes and filling yourself up with them. So your confidence is building.
Yeah.
And um, if you don't have imposter syndrome, there's something wrong with you because it's totally every
Well, yeah,
successful
and I
person
would
has imposter syndrome.
Mm,
yeah, and I would say that when you're honest, Kwana, with the people that you're leading, and you say, "I'm not sure about that. Let me get back to you," kind of thing, you build the trust with them because you're not being phony about it. You're saying, "Hey, this is some area that I need to check into so that I can get back to you and give you the answer you need." I think that's really important. Like you said, every single day of our life, we should be learning
Yeah.
something new,
mhm,
Well,
no matter how old we get and
and
decrepit we get.
what you said is so important. Let me get back to you. And
mhm,
another way is to, with the person that you're kind of mentoring, say, let's go find out together.
mhm, mhm.
Because we have one gal, Mishkat, that's on our podcast several times. She's been, and she was born in Lebanon, and lived in Iraq and really struggled with a lot of challenges. But her website is called The Communication of Success. And what she does is first listen.
Mm.
Doesn't come in as an expert. She doesn't come in telling. She listens so that she can get on the same floor with her people and her students. And
Mm.
presence is the most important leadership skill. I heard that word before.
Absolutely.
And just really being there,
Mhm.
not being somewhere else in your head while you're bobbing your head.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's so important to just be that learner. But yeah, well, join the club of imposter syndrome.
Thank you. That's good. I'm glad I'm in good company.
Yeah.
I remember feeling that. I worked as the coordinator for Franklin Pierce Head Start for early learning, 19 years altogether. But I remember about my 14th year, somehow it hit me again that I felt like an imposter, and I'd been doing the job for 14 years. But at that point, for some reason, I kind of felt shook about it and thought, can I do this? I think it was when I was getting a new boss. The person that I had worked with for years was retiring, and I was getting somebody new, and I didn't know how this was all going to land. And there's points in times I think where you just are not sure, and you have to
Yeah.
push
Yeah.
through.
The other thing is, and this is sort of hard because it's trusting yourself.
Mhm.
But you'll know when it's time to go, and you'll know when it's time to, what to lean into next. So
Mhm.
you don't really have to worry. You're right with that quote about, you get the right job at the right time. And you learn a lot through trials too. When you do have a gnarly boss, or you do have
Mhm.
somebody that's not listening to you, it starts pushing you out the door, and they'll be sorry that you have to leave. But oh well, I'm sorry, I
Yeah.
have to leave.
Yeah.
So that's, I guess, the power of being old and having to look back on times when you thought, oh, I don't want to do this, and yet, yeah, I'm supposed to do this. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. Well, Kwanna, I would have fun working with you. We'd have a great time. I'd love to have you be my boss.
That's amazing. Come to Boston then, Cindy. We need help.
a traveler, she might just do that. And I'm tickled that you're going to go get some roofing nails for your daughter and some
Yeah.
shims, little shingles or something. That book that I was talking about, I don't even know it's still in print. It was called "Don't Push Your Preschooler," and it was
Mm.
a really good book, really wise book. It was back when that wasn't the way people were pushing their kids. Wanted their kids to read by the time they were 3, and So I don't know. Like I said, I don't know if it's still in print, but it's a good read.
I will
So
take note of that.
yeah. So this has been wonderful. And like I said, if you can think of either older Bates students or anybody, maybe even the gal that works with you,
Oh yeah, she would
on,
love it.
yeah. And I encourage you to keep coaching, keep doing learning and doing what you're doing. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So
I want Kwanna to come on after she has that baby, and I want to see the baby. You can tell us the story about what it's like to go through that process again. It was like starting over each time I had a baby. I had 3 babies, and every time a new baby came along, it was like starting over again. It's like I should have this figured out by
Yeah.
now.
well,
Yeah.
and then you get the siblings to deal with. It's worse than a classroom trying to get the kids to get along and talk
The
nice.
good thing is my daughter is really excited to be a big sister, and she refers to the baby as her baby. So I think when the baby comes out, I will just hand
Yeah,
it
they
to
still
her.
want to be boss, and that might be
Yeah.
trouble with when the
She's already the boss.
yeah,
Well,
yes.
there's that.
So the way we kind of
Well,
go ahead,
that,
Sandy, go ahead.
well, I think that also having the space where she's been the only kid for a while. I think she will be more ready to be a bigger sister and not feel threatened because she's already had a mom and dad,
Yeah.
in her court
She's
for
ready. She's like, I
several
need someone to
years,
play
many
with.
years
Yeah,
until. So I think it helps solidify that. Yeah, you don't feel like you got lost in the
Hmm.
shuffle.
my husband's got a funny story though. he and his brother are 5 years apart. So he was 5 when his brother was born. And he said, I was so disappointed when they brought home a baby and not a trike. He thought it was going to be something wonderful like that, and it didn't turn out that way.
Oh, that's adorable.
Anyway, so we kind of end our podcast by going around the room and saying what's one takeaway from our conversation today. So you get to start, Kwanna.
Okay. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this has just been such a amazing conversation. I really appreciate you, Sue and Sandy, for taking the
Good.
time to chat with me on your podcast. I'm very honored that you decided to ask to talk to me today. And I think one takeaway is just, I think continuing to have self-confidence and feeding the part of me that knows that I'm a natural born leader, and um, embrace mentorship and being a mentor, because I do really enjoy and appreciate that. And also, like, finding the joy in all the things that I'm doing.
Yeah.
I think those are my key takeaways. So thank you again for this
Sandy,
conversation.
yeah, you bet. Sandy, take away.
Right. I'm very impressed with Kwanna. I love her journey, her story of her journey. And I think that's one of the things about meeting on the bridge is we all have our story and we learn from each other. And I think putting it out there and talking about it just solidifies where we're going and what we want to be, at the end of our journey, right? Um, and congratulations to your new baby that's coming. And like I said, I seriously want you back
I'd be
on again
happy
so
to
we can
come
see your
back.
beauty.
Thank you.
Yeah,
That'd
well,
be
we've
fun.
got kind of a series that we've done on transitions, so you could talk
Okay.
about transition with your baby in your arms.
You'll be transitioning.
Yeah, I give me like 7 months.
When are you due?
In March.
In March.
Yeah.
Okay, March is a good month. My oldest
Yeah.
was born in March, so my takeaway is I love when you talk about your art and your learning and always trying to find something new. And yeah, I remember you as an extremely good leader, very courageous, and very entrepreneurial. I'm really excited that you
Thank
came
you.
on, and um, we will talk to you again in at least 7 months, if not, whenever.
Before.
Send people our way, and
I will.
and I've got a couple of podcasts actually I might send you that I published a um, index last weekend, so I've got
Perfect.
all of them on there. You can kind of they're more informational on what they're about, so it might
I
be
love that. Thank you so much. I appreciate
okay.
it.
Good. Well,
All
thank
right.
you. I'm going to stop recording and hang in
Okay.
there because we want to talk.
Okay. Thanks.